This Ag News Update brought to you by American Implement, indebted to the past, committed to the future. In a moment, Dr. Roger McEowen.
Would you like to see something done about high gas prices and low unemployment? Western Place Energy in Campus, Kansas is doing something about it. They're a proud part of Growth Energy, America's ethanol supporters, and they employ 38 people and will be adding more following the expansion. Ethanol fuel not only reduces the cost of regular gasoline, it's good for the environment and keeps money right here in the United States while supporting local rural jobs. Western Plains Energy, doing something for the future.
Wolfter Construction and Irrigation has been around a long time, and a lot of folks have trusted them to design, build, and service all sizes of commercial and on-farm storage for grain and equipment. Wolfter is also known for their outstanding irrigation division, where they stock a complete selection of nozzles, regulators, drops, gear drives, electrical, and structure components. Looking for an electric motor? Wolfter has a large selection in single and three-phase. Next time, reach out to the pros who have decades of experience at taking care of business the right way. Wolfter Construction and Irrigation.
And joining us once again, Dr. Roger McEowen for the Washburn School of Law, another Ag in the Courtroom. Dr. McEowen, always great to catch up with you.
Oh, good to be with you, Ken. I always enjoy our monthly visits.
Okay, we've got a couple big things to talk about. In this first segment, we're going to talk about something that many of us have been dealing with, and that is the drought and the possibility, if you had to liquidate a livestock herd, IRS seems to be changing the goalposts all the time of when you can, where that area is, who can do it, and the timeliness of it. Is that a good explanation?
Well, yeah, that's set by statute, actually, the ability of the IRS to change the designated areas, where if you have to sell more livestock than you usually do in a particular year, it's the excess amount, the gain attributable to the excess, that can be deferred under the involuntary conversion rules. Now, because this provision is under the involuntary conversion rules, you have to replace your excess livestock sold with like-kind animals. And this doesn't apply to poultry. It's just livestock held for draft, dairy, or breeding purposes, not counting poultry. And what the IRS says by the end of September every year is, here are the counties that have a declaration, you have a disaster declaration, and you have not had a drought-free year, and your normal 4-year replacement period for those excess livestock gets extended for another year. And IRS has done that just a few days ago by the end of September, and they have designated, I believe it's 34 counties in Kansas, as eligible for that extended 1-year replacement period. So if you were coming up on the end of your 4-year period here at the end of 2021, you've now been extended till the end of 22.
Okay, so again, and then the counties have kind of expanded as well based on kind of some of those regs that have already been out there.
Well, actually, this year the counties, they didn't increase the number of counties. And when I look at a map, I kind of brought my kindergarten skills back into play here, and I color shaded in the counties on the county map so I could see where they're at. All of the northern tier counties that border Nebraska, every one of those except Doniphan is listed as a drought county. So if you have livestock in those areas and you had to sell more than you normally would in your normal business practice, the excess gain attributable to that excess head that's sold can be deferred for an additional year now. Next tier down, all the counties in from Colorado until you get up to Rooks. Rooks and Osborne are not drought counties. And then you've got the next 6 that are, and then Atchison is not. You come down one more notch, you got the first 3 in from Colorado. And then the next tier down, the first 3, the first 2, and then bordering Oklahoma, you have the first 6 counties in from Colorado that border Oklahoma. Basically, the rest of the state is not in a drought designated area for purposes of this rule. Now, the other counties that we could pick up, we get Riley, Pottawatomie, Wabaunsee, and Jackson County, and Dickinson County, and a couple counties north of Salina, and a couple counties north of Ellsworth. And that's it. The rest of the state, basically, if you put the state in quadrants, nothing in southeast Kansas is designated in a drought area. About half of the northeast quadrant, Northwest quadrant, probably 347, and southwest, maybe half.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Roger McEowen is joining us. So let's take a quick break. We have more to talk about with him. We'll do that when we return.
The cost of everything has gone up dramatically over the last 75 years. With one exception: keeping electricity affordable.
Wheatland Electric, delivering energy for life, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
When you've had a best friend for over 50 years, you develop a trust. And the Scott Co-op has been a trusted rural friend since 1957. A co-op keeps money in the area, doing business for and with their members. And that helps keep their hometown thriving with keeping money in the community. Scott Co-op is not just an elevator. It's the rural way of doing business. So, when you see an elevator, remember your friends at Scott Co-op.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law is joining us. And now we want to talk about all the different tax situations that are working their way through Congress or maybe not working. And what you or somebody has kind of deemed this porculus.
Well, I'm one of them that has done that. Others have used more expressive terms, let me put it that way, to describe what's floating through the Congress. I'll leave it to them to say that. But it is a mess. But because there's all types of, I'll call it garbage in the infrastructure bill, there's two pieces. The infrastructure bill is one, and then you got this separate spending bill. Basically it's about 5.5 trillion, which of course equates now to zero, which is another interesting thing to talk about. But all the technical tax stuff is rolled into that. Now, I want to give a brief update on a couple of provisions for viewers right now, but just note that this can change overnight. And so it's just as I'm speaking right now, as we're recording this is where we're at as of right now. I think we can be fairly certain and almost assured moving forward that we will preserve the step-up basis rule at death. The carryover basis provision is dead. That's not going to pass. The House realized they don't have the votes to change the basis at death rule. That's a win for agriculture right there. It's a no change. We like to have that basis step up. Also, from a practitioner standpoint, we need that basis step up, that restart at death, because administratively, it's very difficult to track that basis. And we get a fresh start when a decedent dies. And so the carryover basis rule, coupled with taxing that appreciation in wealth at the time of death rather than when or if the heir sells the property, that's off the table. So I'm fairly certain that's not going to change. That's going to stay off the table. Now, the other stuff, in terms of a drop in the federal estate tax exemption down to $5 million in 2010 dollars, adjusted for inflation, about 6 to 6.2 million. I had been saying that would be about an 85% chance or about a 50% chance. It's probably still in that realm. There still is a chance that none of this is going to go through. And as I closed out a major farm conference in Iowa City, Iowa in June, and also mentioned to the national audience online, I said, when we get to the fall, you want to pay close attention to what President Manchin says. And I said that deliberately because he's the one that is control of all of this, as well as Senator Sinema. And the administration is not in control of the agenda. Manchin and Sinema are. Because if they don't vote for this stuff, it's not going anywhere, no matter what the House does. And the House couldn't vote last week or late in September, in early October, could not vote, and they pushed it off a few more days. So that tells me there's still a chance none of this is going to get through. There's too much dissension in the Congress. But I would say this in the limited time that we have, if you have a trust, you want to be paying attention, because some of the rules with respect to trusts are pretty draconian. If you have a trust that has taxable income over $12,500, what they're proposing is a 39.6 tax rate on that. 12.5, that's not 400,000. That's 12.5. And there are a lot of surviving widows or widowers that have farm property that's held in a trust and it's producing income in that trust. That could get taxed pretty heavily. And so we've got to keep our eye on that and see if there are things we can do to change that. Also, the trust and estates would be taxed at a capital gains top rate of 25%, up from current 20%. Plus, if it's a passive gain, add on another 3.8. So those are a couple of big ones right there. Of course, there's talk about changing the income tax rates, the marginal rates. There's talk about changing rules with respect to IRAs. And then the bankers are upset with one, as well as individual depositors, that would require disclosure to IRS of transactions exceeding $600, down from the current $10,000 threshold on that. That's got the banker lobby all upset. I don't think that one's going to make it, regardless of what happens with the rest of the stuff. But there's a lot of balls in the air right now. We got to keep our eye on what's happening and try and give you another update as soon as it becomes clearer.
All right. Well, speaking of that, Dr. McEowen, our time is up, but folks want to learn more about what we've talked about and get up to date on some of these breaking news items. How can they do that?
Well, a lot of this information I will post on my blog, which can be found through my website, which is washburnlaw.edu/Walter. I also tweet a lot of the fast developments that come out on my Twitter feed, and that's Washburn Walter, WALTR.
All right, Dr. McEowen, as always, appreciate it. And before you know it, we'll have another month ready to talk again. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ken.
Dr. Roger McEowen from the Washburn School of Law, another edition of Ag in the Courtroom. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.
S&S Trailer Sales, with 2 locations in Ness City, Kansas, is where everybody goes to buy or rent trailers. They feature the all-new, all-aluminum Mauer grain trailer with all of the electric options, the easy-to-load detached trailers, and a huge stock of header trailers. At the west location, you'll find bumper poles, goosenecks, and oilfield specialty trailers, along with flat and utility beds for pickups. S&S Trailer Sales in Ness City and on the web, but remember, you do have to spell out the end.
1030 KBUF has agriculture information every day, beginning just a little bit after 6 o'clock. Markets, ag news, weather, and more. Follow along on our social media pages, as well as westernkansasnews.com. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching.